called Deconstructing the Sandtray. I'm a big fan of Sandtray therapy. I use it with children and as well as adult clients if they're into that way of expressing themselves. I also often will process my own feelings. Obviously I can't show you my client work, but I will show you my work. This is a Sandtray that I did a few months ago. If you guys recall, at the time that Greta Thunberg, the environmentalist that traveled to the US by boat and was met with some difficulty when she arrived in our country here in America. And I don't know, I was struggling with some feelings about that. And so when I kind of find myself running through things a little bit in my head, I spend some time processing it in the tray. And what's interesting is I had been to a recent training, Marshall's training, shout out to Marshall, who's a terrific Sandtray clinician, and I had been to a training about adult trauma processing in the Sandtray, and he jokingly said, you know, that he'd like to start up a trend of Sandtrays for social justice. And right after that is about the time that Greta Thunberg had arrived in the US. And so when I thought about that message of Sandtrays for social justice, I actually did create this tray at that time, and I posted it with, you know, hashtag Sandtrays for social justice. And I don't think it's anything that anybody else in the world is doing, but I don't know, it just struck me interestingly. So here's what the tray looks like. I am going to pull the camera, focus it in on the tray. I'm going to take the items out of the tray and recreate it. When I create the tray, normally I'm, you know, oriented over there where you are. So this is how it looks facing you. So I'm going to attempt to recreate it backwards so that you can, you know, see it from your viewpoint. But before I do that, just want to encourage you to think about your own feelings of what the tray evokes for you, this layout and these particular items. As I bring up the items and show you the item and tell you what it was representing to me at that time, that's merely my projection onto the item. Your projection is going to be different. So I'm just showing you how I use that particular item. But I would encourage you to think, oh, what kind of feeling does that evoke for me? Or what kind of thought do I have above this tray before I tell you what my thoughts are. So take a minute to just kind of take that in, and then I'll readjust the camera and we'll shoot the deconstruction. Okay, so I'm going to begin the reconstruction of a Sandtray that I had done a few months ago. So this is the Sandtray that I processed when I was having some, I don't know, like strong feelings about Greta Thunberg and her, you know, her thoughts and feelings about the climate and being a teenager and also being somebody on the spectrum, and I don't know, that fearlessness of coming across the ocean in a boat by herself, and I don't know, I just like, it was pretty interesting. And then you know, sort of the combination of the hopefulness of a young, you know, adolescent, which we are all kind of hopeful and like activists, and like I love that adolescent energy, and then focused on a particular cause, which is environmental justice. And so the whole concept of Greta was so intriguing, but then we have of course a complicated situation here in the US, the way that she was received when she arrived with her activist message. So in this, I picked out, you know, this particular figure could be a number of different things. I did pick this to represent, you know, to project kind of a Greta feeling for me. That's for me. I think what it is the facial expression has kind of a knowledgeable but like innocence, and then I like to think of sort of the magic of different, you know, people are magical, and there are some magical elements with the way that she sees the world. So it's a fictional creature, obviously, but I just love that sweet face. So I cleared out a spot that was to represent like I guess I should make this more of a division. You know, she was leaving another continent and coming across the ocean. So now in Sandtray, things aren't to scale because there's a collection of things over time. So obviously, this is not a boat that would fit this creature, but you'll have to use your imagination. So I've got my boat in here, and then, you know, the little ship's navigator headed towards, I believe she landed in New York, so that represents where she's landing. And I felt that upon her landing, she didn't have a lovely reception. Like, I think there were some people, but there were parts of our country that had really some negative feelings about her arrival. And so I felt like she had a little bit of this of an arrival. When I originally created the tray, I'm gonna have to look back because I did snap a picture. I think I had this a little more elaborate scene going on, but I wasn't able to find the reference picture, so I was just going from my memory. If I find it, I'll put it up for you guys to see what the original kind of backdrop looked like. But I definitely used this character to represent the reception that she received. So then I thought about her message, and at that time, again, I'll show you the reference picture. I had this lovely volcano that one of my colleagues had stored in our Sandtray room temporarily, and she's reclaimed it now, and so I've substituted this image, which you can see. It's kind of a mountain, and there's like some death and destruction on there. It's a little bit gruesome. So I put that in there, and then I have these sort of, I guess they're stalagmites or something. And I kind of, this represents sort of what she was coming to warn about, sort of destructive nature of things. You know, sort of, I put some burned out trees and like trees with no leaves, and just sort of represented like what she was coming to warn about, or try to inspire people about. And then I made a kind of, what was hard for me was, my experience of what was sad for me, I guess, was I felt like people were kind of tuning out, right? So tuning out to the issue that she was trying to raise awareness about, and tuning out to this reception that she was receiving, and kind of overly focused then on, you know, I just have a little pedestal with a little, you know, home sweet home. Like, we're fine. We're in our home sweet home. I also had a cross in there because it was bringing up some conflicting feelings about faith for me and some of my clients, honestly. And so this is how the tray lays out. So, you know, a lot of times when you are processing your feelings in the tray, you're beginning with a story. Like, I didn't know where this would all go when I first started putting the items in the tray. So as this one evolved, actually, I knew this part. I knew I wanted like a boat and a creature that represented Greta. And then I wanted something about the reception that she had received. And then I thought about the destruction she was trying to warn people about. And I think as I process a feeling around that, it's mostly just how overwhelming that is, including how overwhelming it is to be trying to do the right thing about a serious issue and being met with disbelief and anger, and all of which is inappropriate for, you know, anyone, but most certainly for an adolescent who's really trying to be helpful to all of us. And so as I constructed that, I thought about like, oh, what's actually the hard part about that? And what was personally painful to me was this idea that so many of us have a blind eye, you know, or purposefully, like these things are happening right behind, but are not paying attention, and really focused on, you know, other stuff, TV and perfect homes, and that is what led me to sort of a thought of social justice and I guess the bigger pains that people experience and have trouble sort of articulating, the existential pain, or what does it mean to be just operating in your life and trying to raise your family or have your relationships when this kind of thing is going on. Do we need to be in denial, or do we need to be activists? It raises big questions, and so for me personally, it's just helpful to kind of lay it out and kind of get a feel. So as you look at this video and you think about what kind of feeling do you have as you take in this tray? And that would be when I would ask a client to name that tray. What kind of name would you put to that? So when I ask myself that question, what kind of name would you put to that? I focused on the hopefulness and the sort of magic part of people who persist and are somewhat unfazed, and how much I admire that. And so in the grand scheme of things, like where do I want to align myself? I want to keep being hopeful. I want to keep being purposeful. I want to keep being active and trying to point things out as I see them, and how much I admire that in somebody like Greta. So, thanks for watching. See you next time.